I've been talking about purchasing a second truck for a long time. One that's like a little bit older that I can use for like RV transport and my business as well, to kind of help keep some of the miles off my personal truck that I drive now, which is my 2019 Ford F-350 Platinum. But I want to take it a step further, and it's something that's been on my mind. I don't think I've put it in any videos, but it's discussions I've had with people I know, friends, things like that. The opportunity came up to talk to the owner of the company that I run for today. So we're getting busier, like all the other companies. It's that time of the year, and we also are taking on more work because our biggest customer, we're now doing their dealer-to-dealer transfers, and then I think we are going to be doing some of their customer deliveries as well. So we only have 10 drivers. So taking over just the dealer-to-dealer stuff and I think the customer stuff, the driver that I was talking to that worked for the dealership directly, he said they did 1,000 deliveries and transfers already this year. So, during the slow part from January to, call it May 1st, 4 full months, they did 1,000 deliveries. So that's stuff that we're going to be taking on top of our normal deliveries we do from the manufacturer to the dealership, which, we're already busy because we only have 10 drivers. Don't get me wrong, there's times that we're slow. There was times that I could only get 3 loads for the week when I wanted maybe 4. Say in like January, February. There was a week in January I couldn't get any loads because the manufacturer was closed. The end of the year, and then it took them a week to kind of get caught back up. So there is times that we don't have all the loads that we need. Maybe this will change that. But the conversation I had and the plan that I have is to buy a second truck and put a driver in it. So I spoke with the owner of the company, my dispatcher, and I said to him, I've got at least one buddy that is interested in driving. He doesn't have a heavy-duty pickup truck. What do you think about this idea of me buying a truck and putting him in it? How many loads do we need to run, stuff like that. So we talked, it's still going to be a situation where it would have to run the minimum loads, which is like 12 for us. And the one friend that I have that wants to do it is he has a CDL. He drives truck during the day delivering beer, and right now isn't a good time for him because he's got other commitments. But certain times of the year he may want to run 2-3 loads a week to make some extra money on the weekends and stuff like that. And then I have another buddy that he doesn't have a CDL, but he does have a commercial driver's license. He drives a 26-foot box truck doing deliveries for another company during the day, and he could run some loads because what the owner of the company said is, the insurance price is based off of the truck itself being leased on. We could have as many drivers as we want, and it's not going to cost any more money than having one driver. It's the truck that costs the money. So I can either have them jump into my truck and start driving when I'm not using it, but this is my only truck and I use it for my business, so I don't think that would work. But I can buy the second truck and have 1 to 2 drivers running 3 to 4 loads a week easily. And he kind of gave me some numbers, that because he's got some guys that run in his trucks, and how I can work that out pay wise and stuff. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think the way that I'll have it set up is, I'll obviously have like the tolls covered the way that I do it now, with an iPass, and then all the maintenance and stuff that I'll have covered in that. And then I'm going to figure out, do I want to pay for the fuel as well, or do I want to have the driver cover his own fuel and take it out of his pay? He gets a little higher percentage. I haven't figured that out yet. Part of me is thinking that having a driver covering fuel costs is probably a good idea, because they might drive a little smarter if they're paying for the fuel. Whereas if I'm paying for the fuel, there's no real benefit going 65 instead of 70, because mile per gallon doesn't really matter. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But I think this is the route that I'm going to go. Probably have 2 drivers for the one truck and try to keep that truck going 3, 4, 5 days a week, if not more, during certain times of the year, and see what kind of money I can make off of that. I don't think I'll make a ton of money, because by the time the costs get accounted for and the driver makes his pay, there's not going to be a ton left over for me. But I think it can still be profitable for minimal work on my end. Obviously I take the risk with the truck, the equipment, stuff like that, and then the driver, it kind of works out good in my eyes for a driver, because they're just jumping in and driving. They don't have to worry about, do I have to make a truck payment this month? Do I have to pay for tolls? Do I have to pay for the maintenance on the truck? Their situation is pure profit, the way I look at it, unless they're paying for fuel. I haven't decided that yet. But if they're just paying for, or they're not paying for anything other than obviously like food for themselves, then they, even if they're not making a ton of money, there's not an expense to it. It's just hey, do I want to make an extra $300 today? I can go run this load. It's kind of the thought that I was getting at. And obviously, like, the longer the load, the more money for everybody. The shorter loads that we do, like the ones that pay, say, $450 to $500, it's going to be hard for anybody to really be making money on that. But the loads that pay $1,100, I could potentially walk away with some money. The driver's making some money, and everything is covered. But that's kind of where we're at with it. I think I'll update when more develops with it.